everybody who is here for the first time, whether on Zoom or here present in the room. Okay. So Diza and Jan, Sister Jan, are co-directors of the Rockhaven Ecozoic Center. And Jan is a Sister of Mercy. And they're both here to present for us an evening of reflection, collective insight, and ritual. Sister Jan's experience is as an educator and an administrator, and it's led her to work with circles of women who she fosters eco-spirituality and works toward multiculturalism. Jan embodies the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas' committed action towards the earth and care for the earth. Diza is a spiritual companion committed to bringing about the sacred feminine of the divine and expanding one's spirituality in the context of the Ecozoic era. So we give you Jan and Diza, and keep your fingers crossed.
Adjust the camera. I can see. Tell? Right, I can't tell.
I can still see you and do a quick side-by-side gallery.
Aha.
Okay.
And then side-by-side speaker. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Can you see me? That's why I will have to do a side-by-side. Right. But thank you all for coming. When Cheryl invited us, and this is what, a few months ago, was it last year? Yeah, said to Renita, how can we say no to Cheryl? So here we are. Really thank you for inviting us. And we welcome also everyone, like Cheryl said, everyone online. I have seen a while ago some familiar faces. So thank you very much for attending our gathering too. So let's start off with a subject that perhaps is very familiar with everybody, spirituality, right? As sisters, you eat spirituality morning, day, and night. But we'd like to, Jen and I would like to come up this evening to talk about specifically spirituality with regards to creation spirituality. Roughly, we will just be talking about spirituality in terms of as a way of life, okay? Simple enough. This is a state wherein we find ourselves animated by the spirit of the divine, God, Godhead, whatever you name it, the God for the 1,000 names, right? Then on the Ecozoic side, or in the creativity, or in the creation side, we primarily say that creation as we know it is the primary revelation of the divine. And that's a quote from Thomas Berry. I see heads nodding, and can y'all see me? Is it good? Okay. So again, we say that creation is the primary revelation of the divine. So if we put together spirituality and creation, you have creation spirituality. It is a way of life wherein we reverence everything that we see around us. We reverence everything that we experience, the humdrum of life and the joys of life, the honest and the awesomeness of life, and including the terror and the confusions in life. We all take them in. For tonight, when we talk about creation spirituality, we will also do a synthesis of science and religion. Now, I got to tell a story. When I was growing up, ye very small, you can imagine. I asked once my aunt, coming from school, I said, our teacher told us about the story of creation, biblical. Full disclosure, I didn't go to Catholic school. I was raised by the Presbyterians. Bless her heart. And so I said, like, the Bible tells a different story. Science tells a different story. Which one is true? Now, in the simple mind of the child, only one could be true, right? My aunt, in her full wisdom, she was a grade 3 teacher, said to me, and this is a direct quote, the story of the Bible and the story of science are two different things, and never shall the twine meet. I have to go and look at the dictionary. What's twine? And I carry that. I carry that with me, that religion and two different bodies of, say, ideas or being, and that never shall time will meet. And here we are in this century, and we are seeing, I wish you were still here, because I would love to see her reaction when I say, Ma, the twine met. Yes, the twine met when we start to talk about creation spirituality. And for that, I am glad for the pioneers of creation spirituality, Thomas Berry, for one, whom you all know. So with that brief introduction, we'll see why we need creation spirituality. So.
I get onto my computer and get on.
Maybe for our purpose, I'll just. So you see this.
Well, I started reading this book just a few weeks ago. It is Sacred Earth, Sacred Soul by John Philip Newell. And some of you are familiar with him. He's an Irish mystic, wonderful, wonderful person that has written about creation, a lot of Celtic spirituality. And basically, I've heard his name from many of my own sisters who are just, well, we're from Ireland, so, you know, the Irish is there. But I thought to myself, you know, I really want to read one of his books. And so this is one of his newer ones, put out in 21. And in the very first line, he says, we know things in the core of our being that we have not necessarily been taught. But some of this deep knowing may actually be at odds with what our society or religion has to teach us. And I thought, oh, should be an interesting book. And he continues on in that. John Philip Newell begins to talk about soul forgetfulness. And I share John's premise that many of us today are asleep to what's really occurring. You have a deep knowing that we are forgetting our relationship with Earth, other species, and peoples. In many ways, we know that we're treating each other and the world as less sacred. Well, how can this be? I believe we've been inundated with information technology. How many of us look at our phones the first thing in the morning and the last thing we do at night? I understand some of my relatives sleep with their phone. I don't. But talk about being inundated with information. instantaneous. Well, the constant news media about politics, economics, social issues, conflicts, disasters, I could go on, but I think you get my point. We are distracted and we don't pay attention to that cry deep within our soul. We all share this deep knowing that in a way we have forgotten something. We need to open up our eyes and ears and hearts to see what we know that's already deep inside. That all of us, all is one. We are, as people, in awe when we see mountains or an ocean, walk through a woods and watch the dew drop off a leaf, even smiling babies. We have a deep knowing that we're surrounded and infused with the divine. We feel blessed. But we need to remember these moments every day. And a divine nudge is here to awaken us from our soul forgetfulness. And I can, as I said, I really click into what John was writing about, because it is so easy to fall into a trap of not paying attention to what is really sacred. And deep within us, our DNA tells us that we're all part of it and we have a responsibility. So tonight we'll begin to remember.
When Jan shared with me about this soul forgetfulness, and she was reading this book, so I said, so what's the antidote for forgetfulness? And I thought it was pretty simple. You just remember, right? You forgot, remember it. But sitting with it a little longer and playing with words, it came up with remember. It's not simply just remembering cognitively, but to actually remember ourselves, to become a member again into this sacred community or into the sacred community of life. So that's what we'll be about tonight, to remember our souls. And how we do that, we just propose 3 things, which will be, again, something that you all know, nothing new under the sun. One would be, and I will magically do like this, and the screen will advance. Look at that. Okay, so the first one will be honoring nature's seasons. Next would be cultivating reverence. Simply, that's cultivating awe and wonder. But sometimes we hear awe and wonder so many times, right? So I thought maybe reverence would be a nice word for us tonight. And then the last one, not the least, of course, is participation in the great work. And we'll talk about, what the great work is and all of that later as we go along. So as a form of spirituality, we would like tonight to do a little bit of talk, but also an experiential kind of approach in our sharing. So let us start off with a prayer to the directions. Aha, if you excuse me, the White House is calling. If you have a chance to listen to that tune, that's West Wing. So we'll start off with a brief chant. It's called Anima Mundi, dreaming of the world's soul. Nature is dreaming us forward. Nature is dreaming us onward. Onward first, sorry. We must learn to listen. Nature is dreaming us onward. We must learn to see. So, Anima Mundi, for those of you who speak Latin, yeah, it's the world's soul. So we bring in the soul again here, as what Jan has shared a while ago, of our sense of soul forgetfulness. So what do? We dream it back. In some indigenous cultures, dreaming is how they get back to their consciousness, and it's dreaming is the healing process that they go into. Anima mundi, dreaming the world soul. Nature's dreaming us onward. We must learn to listen. Nature's dreaming us onward. We must learn to see. Anima mundi, dreaming the world soul. Nature's dreaming us onward. We must learn to listen. Nature is dreaming us onward. We must learn to see. Anima mundi, dreaming the world soul. Anima mundi, dreaming the world soul. Nature is dreaming us onward. We must learn to listen. Nature is dreaming us onward. We must learn to see. We invite you to stand if you wish. And in honor to the directions, we'll just face all altar. And as we do this prayer, we remember the land we are standing on, the land of the first peoples, mostly unceded land. So we bring them to mind. So all of us, Eternal One, who circles the seasons with ease, teach us about the earth's natural cycle of turning from one season to another. Remind us of how she opens herself to the dying and the rising cycles, the coming and going of each season. Open us to the teachings of the season of autumn. Let us call to mind and be in the presence of the East. Great Spirit of the East, we stand before the place of rising sun, knowing the time to let go has arrived. The chill of this seasonal change challenges our hopeful dreams. May autumn's brilliant colors give us hope for the days ahead. Next, we bring our presence into the direction of the south. We will let our candle burn for a minute or so. And then blow it out as a sign of the darkness that is approaching. To the Great Spirit of the South, we turn to you with nostalgic awareness. Summer's flowers are gasping goodbye. The rays of the sun will soon begin to be more distant, and the vibrant greens that we see around will soon turn gray. Now arrives the season of surrender. May your love settle quietly in us like a mother bear entering the cave. And let us put ourselves in the presence of the West. Water is being poured slowly into the container. Great Spirit of the West, we bow to the place of goodbye where the sun slides below the horizon. We stand before the presence of our ancestors' wisdom. As they learn from their transitions, so we will look to the teachings of this time. And we call to mind and stand in the direction of the north. We place weeds or dead flowers and seeds on top of the bowl filled with soil, which is the element of the north. And Great Spirit of the north, the land strip is beginning to be stripped of what is strong. The long months of waiting will soon begin. Keep alive the memory of the harvest seeds while we prepare to rest. Align us with the silence and inner strength of winter. Aho. That's amen, by the way, or so be it. And we shall pray our autumn prayer. So how we'll do this is maybe the first arc. We'll do the first stanza and then at the back. Thank you.
O God of creation, you have blessed us with the changing of the seasons. As we welcome the autumn months, may the earliest setting of the sun remind us to take time to rest.
May the brilliant colors of the leaves remember us into the wonder of your creation.
May the stream of our breath and the cool air remember us in years that follow.
May the harvest from the fields remember us into the abundance we have been given and the bounty we are to share with others.
May the dying zombie spirit remember us into the great promise that it is temporary and life is eternal.
Amen. Thank you. And we may take our seats. So remembering ourselves into the seasons of nature. It's very simple, and what we did a while ago is just, a little ritual just to place ourselves in the presence of the changing of the seasons, and in this case, autumn, which is coming right around the corner. I am from the Philippines. Where I come from, there's only 2 seasons, wet and dry. And so when I first came here to the States and to witness the changing of the seasons, I go like, wow. Of course, I came here in the middle of winter, January 12th to be exact, my first time in here. And I said, who would like to live in such a place? Everything is dead and desolate. And then the spring came. And you could just imagine, I was trying to explain to my younger sister how it is, the magic of when things come up from the ground and start blooming and growing. And it's Cheryl's cell phone. I think it's a reminder for us to just take a deep breath. Thank you. So can you imagine how enthralled I was sharing with her that, my God, the flowers and the tulips and this one, you know, they're all blooming. And she said, well, that happens here pretty much like throw away a seedling or whatever, or a bean or two, and then they grow. You know, what's the magic in there? And then that's when I discovered that when one hasn't experienced how it is to live in a place that has been dead, then one cannot see the magic of resurrection. Right. Of course, our fields would also lie fallow, but it's not like for 4 months or 3 months or so. Yeah. So it's sheer magic. And it is one of the things, the seasons that had really kept me grounded while we were at Rockhaven. It is the constancy of the seasons. Never jumps like, okay, I feel like winter now and tomorrow. Well, that's St. Louis weather, right? I digress. But yeah, there is that we are able to be with the seasons, and we can be very sure that spring follows winter. Autumn follows summer, and so forth and so on. So in this season of autumn, this is the season of harvest, as you all know. When we celebrate the equinox, it's actually the season of the second harvest. You know that there actually are 3 harvest seasons. In the Celtic calendar, some of you are familiar with this, I'm sure. They start off the first harvest on August 1st. Okay. Now there's music somewhere. It's lovely, isn't it? Yeah. It's called Somewhere in Time. Speaking about time, right? So there's 3 harvests. Roughly, Lunasa for them, that's August 1st. That's the harvest of the grain. And in here, they celebrate the grain, and so they have freshly baked breads and all the rituals that go with that. Then comes September, mid-September, we have the second harvest, and that's the harvest of the fruit. And so we have the apples and the nuts. One standing here, but yeah, and it's just magical. And then the last harvest, which is the time when you call the animals and you really prepare now for winter, right? So the animals are slaughtered and everything. And that's during, guess when? During Samhain, and that's All Hallows Eve. Yeah, right. And of course, this, you know, good people in the church, they have these celebrations already, so why not join them, right? Okay, so we would just make it All Hallows Eve and so forth and so on. But that is, you know, again, what I'm saying, I guess it's the beauty of the seasons that we could count on in those transitions. So here's somebody who might be familiar with. It's from the the book of Christine Walter Paintner. It's called Earth, Our Sacred, Our Original Monastery. If you haven't come across this book, it's a very good read, actually. So she talks about Earth as our original monastery. I would like to read you this passage. I once spoke to my friend, an old squirrel, about the sacraments, and she got very excited and ran into a hollow in her tree and came back holding some acorns, an owl feather, and a ribbon she had found. And I just smiled and said, "Oh yes, dear, you understand. Everything imparts God's grace." You know who this is? St. Francis. St. Francis of Assisi in this little segment called The Sacraments. So he talks about the squirrel being in the presence of the seasons, gathering acorns. So Jan now will distribute some acorns. Not that you'll be turning into squirrels, right? And for those of you online, if you could just imagine you have an acorn in your hand, or if you just happen miraculously to have an acorn there right next to you, yeah, go ahead. Out here on the plenary, Jan is handing out some acorns to everyone. Saint Julian of Norwich, in her book, Showings, and I quote, "I looked at it," the acorn, or in this case, the hazelnut for Julian. "I looked at it and thought, what can this be? And I was given this answer. And the answer was, it is everything which is made. It is everything which is made. I was amazed that it could last, for I thought that this was so little, that it could suddenly fall into nothing. And I was answered in my understanding. It said, this acorn lasts and always will, because God loves it. This thing will last and always will, because God loves it. And this everything has being through the love of God. Another mystic, I quote. This is Mary Oliver in her new book, Devotions. I don't know who God is exactly, but I'll tell you this. I was sitting in the river named Clarion on a water splashed stone, and all afternoon I listened to the voices of the river talking. Whenever the water struck the stone, it had something to say. And the water itself, and even the mosses trailing under the water. And slowly, very slowly, it became clear to me that what they were saying. Said the river, I am part of holiness. "And I do," said the stone. "And I do," whispered the moss beneath the river. I don't know who God is exactly, but the river and the stone and the water whispered, "We are holy." So these are examples of people who have really touched their mystical side of things. And we are called to be that too. As we sit with the changing of the seasons, might we be able to also sit with what might be the understandings or the silent wisdom that is shared with us? So in this case, we invite you for a moment of silence as you hold on to that acorn. And for those online, if you could sit in silence and imagine yourself, with an acorn, like Saint Julian of Norwich in your hand. And just for a minute, sit with silence. We invite you to the silence of the seed. And listen, perhaps, if there is something that could be discerned from maybe a kernel of wisdom from the seed.
We ask that if you'd like to turn to the person next to you and share, if you wish, just a little bit of what the acorn or what has been shared with you in the silence of the moment that we just had. Just for a couple minutes.
There's somebody beside the little acorn that knows what time happens. And is there. Yeah. And what we very important about having that community. But I know all of the we're meeting there. We just had a discussion about you.
Wanting to share? Oh, well, thank you for sharing with each other. And I'm sure that this will continue on as you take your little acorn home with you. And as we continue to walk through autumn together, we can remember the possibilities that are already inside of this and inside of us. We are remembering and we are speaking to our souls. Let us say our autumn prayer. For the season of harvest, bounty contained within a seed, divine one, we thank you for the oak tree within an acorn, the bread within a grain,
the apple within the pit. The mystery of nature.
Thank you for that brief reflection, then. I was really struck that, something you said about the acorn. Everything is right there already, like, yeah, the potentials and all the possibilities. Bodes well for me, like for a little one, that I have everything I need except elevation. The second remembering that we had proposed is, if you all remember, is around our capacities for reverence. And that simply is the awe and wonder element. Two noted psychologists, Keltner and Haidt, propose that there are two qualities necessary to experience and embody awe. Two, only two. One is this idea or the capacity for us to place ourselves in vastness. Okay. Something bigger than us, something that could even like maybe swallow us. I'm remembering my first time looking down in the Grand Canyon. I'm like, that is huge. It's very, so something that is really vast or bigger than us. And of course, the ubiquitous picture of this would be also from the new Webb telescope, right? It's just vast. So Keltner and Haidt said, yeah, there's something larger than yourself. Okay. Second, we have to have the ability for accommodation. Not like accommodation of VRBO or Airbnb, but the accommodation we're in, something within us changes because of that given experience. For example, the given experience of vastness, then we are able to recalibrate our understanding of ourselves vis-a-vis the universe, right? That we cannot look at the stars and remain thinking we are the biggest presence in the universe, right? So something like that, that they say, something has to change and sort of accommodate that newness in us. And so with those two, it says we are able to hold our religious experience. We are able to validate other people's experience of awe and wonder. Like I said before, you all have probably heard of the term awe and wonder, that sometimes I myself included, I like to now, oh, there it goes again, awe and wonder, right? Yeah, I hear, I see heads nodding that, yeah, it's true. And so for me, then is to remind me that every time I hear awe and wonder, and I encounter awe and wonder, that is not simply something that we all could do because you're into this creation spirituality thing, right? But frankly, it is a spiritual practice. Matthew Fox calls it the via creativa, or the way of creativity, wherein no matter what happens, we can see and experience wonder and awe in whatever it is. Like I said, happiness and joy and terror, we could hold both at the same time because we're just like that, right? We're humans and we have that capacity. And so why do we do that? Again, I ask, why? But I think awe and wonder, this is simply an act of resistance in this age of cynicism. Awe and wonder could simply be an act of resistance that we simply, as people with evolved consciousness, or as have seen the capacities of the human being, we say, no matter what, we still believe in the gift of being human. No matter how evil, a situation might be, no matter how evil, we say, a person might be, and that's a judgment call, that we still say, there must be something in here for me to grow. So I'd like to repeat that standing in awe and wonder and in reverence of creation in this day and age is an act of resistance. Resistance from everything that tries to pull us down. Yeah. Any thoughts around that? Awe and wonder, sometimes, like I said, tried and true terms, we get tired of it. It's like the apple. We have apples? Yes, we do. Just imagine an apple. It's simply an apple. How many varieties of apple? We see it in the supermarket every day. But when you cut open an apple, again, you all have done this, what do you see inside? A star. Right, yeah. Here's Jen. Maybe you could show it to here, Jen, to the people online, not you. Yeah, so it's a very simple thing, but not until we are cut open do we see the star. So it's a very, very simple way of putting it, in a way of saying, not unless we experience that something inside and we're broken open, we see awe and wonder. Same stars that we see up above us, same stars we see on the apple. So I guess Jen is ready to give away some of these slices to you. Again, apologies to our people online. If you have time to get an apple and slice it open, you certainly could do that, as Jan here is going around the room distributing slices of apple. Our server is really taking her time.
It takes time to share the stars.
It takes time to share the stars. I once took a class on sacred geometry, and our teacher, Michael Schneider, I think that was his name. Yeah, Michael Schneider shared with us that if ever you are out in the wilderness and you don't know which is poisonous and what you can eat, look for a plant that has on its leaves 5 points, and you are sure that that plant is not poisonous. But this time we were talking about the holy number 5, and he said that 5 stands for life. And I'm like, aha. So it's not a coincidence. So we have 5 senses, we have 5 digits, we have 5 toes, right? And so 5, he said, is the number for life. And all mathematicians here, I shudder in your presence. We have the golden mean, right? The golden mean, which is 3 and 2, which is equal to 5. You know? So why is that? I am glad I see some of you already eating. Yes, you can start eating. And eat the stars. Yeah. So again, here is a very simple exercise of how we can bring ourselves into ordinary experiences and bring ourselves into a sense of awe and wonder. To just sometimes pause and look at the stars inside the apple and know how to cut it, right? Has to be lateral. Christine Walters Paintner in her book talks about earth as the original sacrament. So sisters and brothers, what you're doing is actually partaking on the sacrament of earth. Again, a very simple act of eating what has transpired from the ground. It has all the elements of the earth, the air, the fire, the water, all is coalesced into this single slice of apple, right? In one of his songs, Peter Mayer talks about everything is holy now. You're familiar with that song, yeah. That it's not just the sacred waters in the baptismal font in the church, but the waters in the creek, the waters in the rivers, you know, everything is holy. Everything is holy now. So, again, just to say, experiences of awe and wonder, sometimes we don't have to stand in the presence of the Grand Canyon or look at pictures of Hubble telescope or Webb telescope, but it's in the everydayness of life. Yeah. Therese of Little Flower, yeah. The small things. Thank you. So, as we have ate in this sacrament and we have eaten this slice of apple, we have another prayer for you. This time is the form of litany, okay? A litany of gratitude. You all know, of course, in this season, when this, during the harvest, we see all signs, you know, of bounty and all signs of gratitude, calligraphy of giving thanks and effort. And so tonight, we pause and give thanks for what we have eaten, for what we have shared, for what we have heard. So y'all can see there is a space there This is for the reader, and we have a response. So might I ask for volunteers who could read, who could be readers, and we all respond, except until, and then in the last stanza, we will pray the last 3 sentences. Okay. Shall we begin?
We live in all things, and all things live in us.
Blessed be God forever.
We live by the sun. We move when we fall.
Blessed be God forever.
We eat from the earth. We drink from the rain. We breathe from the air.
Blessed be God forever.
We share with the creatures. We have strength through their gifts.
Blessed be God forever.
We depend on the forest. We have knowledge through their secrets.
Blessed be God forever.
We have the privilege of seeing and understanding. We have the responsibility to care.
Blessed be God forever. And everyone, we have the gift of remembering. We have the joy of celebrating. We are grateful. And we have this song. Apologies to Marty Hagen. You all know this song. We remember. Okay, so if we could just all sing that. We remember how you loved us into life, and we will celebrate the Holy One in all. And we believe that we are sharers in your word, our sacred calling. We remember, we celebrate, we believe. Thank you. Again, apologies to Marty. Don't put this out there. This is just a version for tonight. So again, to recap, we first started with, how to remember ourselves would be to just simply be in the presence of the changing seasons, i.e. autumn. Another would be to stand in awe and wonder. And of course, the last one is to participate in the great work. Of what is the great work? Here's a short film. Again, a lot of you might have seen this, a speech by Carl Sagan back in the 70s, I believe. Yeah, it's pretty old.
From this distant vantage point, the Earth might not seem of any particular interest. But for us, it's different. Consider again that dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on the mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe, are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
To look at the pale blue dot underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish this pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known. It's amazing that this speech given years ago still holds very, very true for us this day and age. But his quote saying, this picture just underscores our responsibility for one another is what we mean when we say we participate in the great work. When we try to get away from soul forgetfulness and we try to remember ourselves by participating into the great work, which is, by the way, a term coined by Thomas Berry. In order for us to do that, I heard somebody spoke the other day that this participation in the great work, by the way, is not an option only. You know how sometimes we go into our computers and there's a drop down and there's plethora of options, you know. It's not like that. The great work is the work for each one. We don't get to say no to this. Well, I guess technically we can, right? Yeah, because we're humans. We have the will, you know, and the freedom. But as Jan would say, it's in our DNA, right? We are human beings, and we, in a very essence of us, do care. And with that, we participate in the great work. Joanna Macy and the Buddhist community that she belongs to, she often talks about, in the Buddhist tradition, the idea of the Shambhala warrior. Have you heard of that term, Shambhala warrior? So she posits that in today, there are two kinds of people, or two kinds of warriors of the Shambhala warrior. Two, because only two, because one is the doula, or the one who hospices. Okay. And her work or his work is to hospice the old structures as they die. You don't have to kill it. It's already dying, right? You can believe that, yeah. And so this particular Shambhala warrior will hospice something that's already dying. And what are those? The old structures, institutions that have served their purposes, and so forth and so on. On the other hand, the second warrior is what she called the midwives. As we prepare the dying, we also have to give birth to something, right? And so here is where the midwives come in. Call the midwives. You know what I am watching on Sunday evenings. Yeah. So, yeah. So for Joanna Macy, this is the great work. You participate. You either are a death doula, okay, a hospice worker, or you are the midwife. Sometimes for gifted ones, they could do both. Right? Yeah. But again, the idea here is that it's not an option. You know? Oh, okay, someday when I'm done with doing X, Y, and Z, then I'll go, you know, do my great work. No, we do it now. Another person who talks about the great work in another way is Ken Wilber. You are familiar perhaps of Ken Wilber in his Institute of Evolutionary Sciences or Evolutionary Psychology. Yeah. Yeah. He talks about very simple. The great work involves WGCS. Wake up, grow up, clean up, show up. Just four. Yeah. According to him, if we are to move forward into as an entire human species, yeah, we have to do our work. And very simple. Again, wake up, grow up, clean up, and show up. Yeah. I thought, oh, wow, that's really great. Yeah. Last June, we had the privilege of inviting Nancy Sylvester and her group, and she came in here to do the workshop, Enter the Chaos with us. Funny side story. Some people, when they were registering for that event, they said, we wanted to come to that event that's called End the Chaos. And we thought, oh my God, that's a very huge text to do. End the chaos. What we're proposing is we just enter the chaos. Yeah. But anyway, Nancy and her cohort, Bernice Solimar, talked about that too, that when we do our work and as we enter the chaos and be with the chaos, we cannot not wake up, grow up, clean up, and show up. Yeah. So again, what's the great work? That's one of them. Lynn Twist. Again, some of you might be familiar with her. Lynn Twist is one of the founders of the Pachamama Alliance. Some time ago, you might have participated in our Awakening the Dreamer, Changing the Dream programs. So Lynn Twist is one of the founders. And so she talks about the great work as actually, she says, that is just like when you are living in a committed relationship. Okay. Even for the nuns. Yeah. So you are living a very committed life. Yeah. And what does that mean? I don't have to say, to explain that to you. for the lay folks to, you know, it's like akin to being in right relationship. And so I say living in right, committed relationship. Yeah, we often hear about being in right relationship, okay? Put committed in there. Again, we say that because we go back to idea that participating in the great work is not just an option. You know, it's not optional, I should say. Yeah. So to recap, just 3 things we suggest as we remember ourselves and hopefully not be in the presence of what Jan had shared a while ago, soul forgetfulness. 1, we stand at the thresholds of the changing of the seasons. 2, we stand in awe and wonder, reverence. And 3, participate in the great work. So with that, as this very simple ritual, we would call this an anointing ourselves into the great work. Not that you haven't been starting the great work, I'm sure you have been doing that already, but to recommit ourselves to the great work. So we will listen to this song. It's a song by Leah Wolf song is her name. This is called The Mother's Call.
When I look to the sweet earth, I see a mother's face. I feel arms willing to embrace her children. What's that I hear upon the wind? I hear a mother's voice. I know a mother's choice of love. I feel the heartbeat. I feel the stirring of creation. I feel the mother's gentle touch as she wakes her sleeping children. On the eve of awareness, let us sleep no more. Bright dawns the new day of limitless vision, a day of mothers, children smiling in the light. And the joy of creation is known to all. In every moment we are alive. I feel the heartbeat. I feel the stirring of creation. I feel the mother's gentle touch as she wakes her sleeping children. On the eve of awareness, let us sleep no more. I feel the heartbeat. I feel the stirring of creation. I feel the mother's gentle touch as she wakes her sleeping children. On the eve of awareness, let us sleep no more. On the eve of awareness, let us sleep no more.
For online participants, might see Jan going around with a bowl of water that we had started in our opening ritual. And with that, we anoint ourselves to the great work. Thank you very much for being a part of that great work. Amen. Go and remember.
I like that one line, on the eve of awareness, let us sleep no more. When we all feel that heartbeat, we all feel that inside of us, we know deep inside of us that the earth is sacred, that we're sacred. And we have to, as Jesus said, we're this act of resistance. We've got to be countercultural and stand up and proclaim this, demand it. So our prayers are with you as we continue this lovely season of creation. And we thank you. We thank you for letting us coming and sharing just a little bit. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Oh my gosh, Kathy.
Thank you, Diza, and thank you, Jan, for this harvest of wonderfulness and awe. And we're so glad that you came, that you couldn't resist. Thank you all for being here this evening. Thank you all that are online for being here with us, because even if you're way out there in Florida and Texas and wherever you may be, you are still here with us. We're so glad that you all could be and participate and take part of this harvest of awe and wonder. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We hope you all come again in October. Chris Wimmer from MCE will talk about the farm, food, the environment, and social impact. And so look online at our website to register. It'll again be in person and online for those who want to do the Zoom. I think we did fairly well tonight. And I hope those people who are on Zoom were able to participate as much as they could and hear everything that they could. And at least I thought it went pretty well, and we'll see when we get the evaluations back. I send those out, what kind of responses we had. But I'm so grateful that we're able to be again here and also still have people online that we have over the past year and a half, we're able to connect with in our previous presentations that were on Zoom. But it's so good to see you here tonight. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye, everybody.